Union Berlin, the ultimate Champions League underdog and the ultimate football romance story. Here we go. So, who are Union Berlin and what is all the fuss about? Well, those known as the Iron Ones, FC Union Berlin, are a football club from the German capital that have gone from unknown to unstoppable in recent years. The club usually play at a ground known as the Stadium at the Old Forester's House. The stadium was last redeveloped in 2009 and expanded in 2013. Some of the redevelopment work was carried out by over 2,300 Union Berlin supporters who decided to volunteer their services for the love of their club. Situated in southeast Berlin is the humble home of this club that was literally built by the hands of some of their fans. The ground now plays host to top-level Bundesliga football, concerts and even Christmas carols, a tradition that started 20 years ago with under 100 people and now fills the stadium and attracts fans from across the country. The ground also became a giant living room in 2014 when Union fans were invited to literally haul their sofas to the stadium and sit down for some World Cup action. Over 800 sofas were set up by fans. Sadly, however, for Union, they have not been able to play their Champions League home games at their home ground because of UEFA regulations. Instead, they are now lighting up Europe's top stage in the home of their fierce rivals Hertha Berlin in the famous Olympic Stadium. Despite voicing their disapproval at such a decision and protesting, of course, you better believe that Union have turned the Olympic Stadium red for their opening European Cup fixtures and will continue to do so as long as they last in the tournament. Which brings us on to our next question. How did this little team, that recently nobody had really heard of, get to the Champions League? After the Cold War, Union, which of course was based in Old East Berlin, joined the German league structure upon the reunification of the city and country in 1990. What happened in the 21st century, however, can only be described as a meteoric rise. From 2009 to 2019, Union played in the second tier of German football, but in 2019, Union won promotion to the Bundesliga for the first time in the club's history. They would finish 10 points above the relegation places in their first season in the big time, claiming a very respectable 11th place finish ahead of German giants like Schalke and Cologne. Things would eventually get even better though, and the unthinkable eventually happened. In 2021, Union finished 7th in the league to qualify to the inaugural UEFA Europa Conference League. In 2022, the club qualified for the UEFA Europa League by finishing 5th. And then, the following year, they did the unbelievable and qualified for the Champions League for the first time in their history by finishing 4th in the Bundesliga. In 2021, Max Kruse was Union's top goalscorer with just 11 goals. The same season, Erling Haaland scored 27 league goals for Dortmund and Robert Lewandowski scored a stonking 41 for Bayern. But that didn't matter. Little Union had made it to Europe. In the Conference League that followed, the Germans would finish 3rd in a tricky group. They beat Maccabi Haifa twice, but couldn't get another win, home or away, against group rivals Feyenoord and Slavia Prague. Nonetheless, they had caught a glimpse of those European floodlights and were begging for more. That season they bettered their league form too, finishing 5th and just 1 point off 4th place Leipzig. It was enough to reach a level higher in Europe and play in the UEFA Europa League, formerly known as the UEFA Cup, for the first time. The following season would be their most remarkable yet. Union managed to finish 4th in the league to qualify for this year's edition of the UEFA Champions League. This wasn't meant to be happening. Their fans are in dreamland. In fact, some of Union Berlin's left-wing fanbase didn't even want to qualify for the Champions League. The club has actually got bigger than they even wanted. A percentage of the fanbase is anti-UEFA politics and decisions, like for example, moving them from their home ground for their Champions League games. That aside, Union Berlin had reached the football big time, whilst coming 4th in the league and just 9 points off champions Bayern. They managed to navigate a fantastic Europa League campaign. The men in red were able to defeat every single one of their group rivals, Union Saint-Gilloise of Belgium, Malmo of Sweden and FC Braga of Portugal. They would then defeat Dutch and European giants Ajax in the following playoff round to reach the last 16. In rather disappointing circumstances, Union Berlin would then be knocked out to Saint-Gilloise, the same Belgian side they had managed to beat in the group stage. On this occasion, things just didn't go quite as well, and they lost the tie 6-3. All was forgotten come the end of the season though. They had gone one better again. This year, Union's form could certainly be better. They are flirting with relegation at the moment, but they are paying the price of Champions League football, a price that many fans are delighted to pay. Union went on an awful losing streak that included 2 Champions League games. They lost both by a goal, and they were both very, very late winners. First up, the boys from Berlin had to visit Real Madrid, the kings of Europe. It was a tricky 1-0 defeat after a brave performance. Then, in round 2, things looked like they would go as planned and a home win was on the cards. But visitors Braga shocked Union with 3 late goals for a mental comeback victory, and Union have not quite got off the ground since. Union have made some additions to the squad to deal with such a busy schedule, but it's not working yet. Hopefully, they'll turn their season around. Leonardo Bonucci was probably the biggest name that arrived in this summer window. A European champion with Italy as recently as 2021, the Juventus legend is a big name and a big part of what could be a well-bolstered defence. Kevin Volland arrived from Monaco, Robin Gosens from Inter Milan, and even USA international Brendan Aronson came on loan from Leeds United. Time will tell whether this Union team have hit their limit or can continue to compete at Champions League level and fight in the Bundesliga too. But one thing is for sure. No matter how they struggle at the moment, the rise of this club is unparalleled. This small team from East Berlin are now known the world over after moving up the leagues and up the European tournaments in the short space of a few years. What they have done is magnificent. It shows the power of community and that the underdog is still very much alive and well, even in modern football. How well will this season end for